So just to get us started, I think it would be great if you maybe just talk a little bit about your experience at Timely, what you did there, and kind of how you came to work at Timely in the first place as well.
Yeah, cool. So I joined Timely in 2017. So we had just closed our first significant funding round, and we're looking to kind of being predominantly New Zealand-based, New Zealand team, to expanding into Australia and the UK, and building a team out there and growing our business, basically kind of going from startup to scale up. And I had joined from Xero, so I was head of product marketing at Xero before that. I guess probably one of the first product marketers in Xero. I think there's over 50 there now. Like, it's a big kind of part of the organization, but there was, gosh, I'm trying to think, there was like 4 or 5 of us, in product marketing, covering various different product lines. So I was head of product marketing for mobile, and then the small business product. And prior to Xero, actually, I worked for a booking software called Katoomba. So Katoomba is a competitor of Timely's, and I'd been there at Katoomba for a couple of years in a marketing role. So I kind of understood like the booking market space, and then I'd gone from this bootstrapped booking software to a hyper growth company at Xero. And kind of those two things combined was why I think Ryan reached out to me. It was like probably just good timing, good match of skills and experience. And yeah, so I joined in after 6 months of conversations, getting to know each other and figuring out like what is the role that I could come in and support. They were waiting to close their funding round before bringing me on board, and so that was really the basis of it. So the funding round closed with Movac, and I joined at that time as chief product and marketing officer. So I had the dual roles of leading product and marketing, which matched my background, but certainly was a big stretch for me in terms of actually owning the product direction, as well as our a big part of our go-to-market.
Yeah, nice. That's really interesting. And having been part of Xero at an early stage, Timely at an early stage as well, one of the things I've just noticed is that you've actually had the probably really unique experience of working at 2 basically competing companies, one being bootstrapped and one being VC funded. What are the fundamental differences that you noticed in the growth of those companies, like in how they grew, maybe the mentality that they had, and so on?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so Katoomba was bootstrapped, and it was a much less competitive space at that time. So this was I think Katoomba was founded in 2002. It was desktop based software. It wasn't cloud native. And I joined at an interesting time when that was starting to, the landscape was changing, and the competitive nature of the booking software space that was just this open ground before really started to crowd up. And Timely launched when I was at Katoomba, and I remember Ryan and Scoff were pitching at it was Startup Alley, was like they had a pitch contest, and Rowan Simpson was the MC, I think, or a judge, and they ended up winning that pitch. And what they did, a friend of mine was in the audience, and what they did was basically showed a picture of Katoomba's software and said, like, this is what we're disrupting, this like old dated technology. So it was quite interesting to kind of be like, I was nodding my head going, yeah, we are old and dated and we need to move faster. And so there was when Timely emerged, it really put pressure on us at Katoomba to lift our game. And I think the difference is in what does a founder want when you're a bootstrapped person. Like, going the bootstrapped route is awesome because you're holding on to that equity and you're able to build a business. But if the competitive landscape switches and you're starting to erode your revenue and the value of your business, then that's a big risk. So yeah, I think the motivation and drive of a VC funded business, like the expectation is there that you're going to 10x, 100x or whatever the initial investment. Like that's what investors are looking for. So there is a different like pace that is very evident between a bootstrapped versus a VC funded business, which is, I thought, was fascinating. And they're both quite fun as well. Like they've both got their pros and cons.
Yeah. What would you say top 3 pros and cons are on either side?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot, like to kind of distill it. I mean, I think when I was at Katoomba, it was my first experience with SaaS and helping to drive a product roadmap based on customers, and I felt like the team vibe that we built at Katoomba was really a really fun and positive culture, but it was less about the growth and more about like how much fun we were having. So there's like this, I think that, I don't know if that's a pro or a con, like I kind of see it as both, depending on what you're looking to get out of your job. Is like the drive for growth, I would say, wasn't really there amongst the team. Potentially with our founder, it was there. But with the team, it was really about like enjoying each other's company and having a good time. And it was quite different at Timely, which had a great culture, but it was very much like, here's a big goal, this is what we're going after. It's all about the customer and making sure that we're delivering a great experience. For like, they were the center of everything, so very values driven. Again, I don't know that I could say it was what the pros and cons are.
No, that's okay. Really interesting nonetheless. And I think just segueing over to Timely more, like obviously you had a great run there. Timely exited for between 100 and 200 million, I think is the publicly disclosed figure. While you were there at Timely, you led a really big brand change to narrow in on the beauty industry. Can you tell me a little bit more about that and what prompted Timely and yourself to make that shift?
That was an interesting shift. Like the data was told us that this was the market that we should be going for, and that's what I really loved about the narrowing in on that focus. There are so many professional verticals that we could have gone for that would use booking software, but the one that paid us the most on average, had the highest product engagement rate, the lowest churn rate, the most feedback, feature requests, like all of the feedback and engagement really came from this small subset, which is the beauty and wellness industry. And it just made sense based on the data that this is the vertical that we should be going after, or set of verticals. And I think a lot of the assumption is that we sort of found clear space in the market that wasn't competitive, and we're like, let's go after that segment, because why not? Like this seems like a good direction to go down. And it's actually kind of the opposite. Like everyone was seeing the same as us. Like everyone that was in the booking kind of space was seeing the beauty and wellness segment, the value of that vertical. It was growing. Like the various disciplines within it were growing, the value of the market was growing. So I'm talking about like medical aesthetics, injectables and tattoo, and not just kind of your haircuts and massages. It's quite a broad set of verticals. We saw the data told us to go for it, and that's kind of what drove it. But it was also something that the entire business got behind, and I think that was the difference between us and a lot of our competitors. So I would count 150 competitors in the booking, like general bookings software space, and the ones that did really well were very clear about who they were going for, and it tended to be the beauty and wellness segment. So it definitely didn't give us open space to win a market, but it gave us focus on who our customer was, who we should be listening to, how to sell to that customer, how to market to that customer. So that was the big driver there.
Yeah, nice. I think it's a really common strategy, or commonly advice strategy for a new SaaS or a SaaS company at an early stage to really hone in on like a specific niche. And it sounds like that worked really well for you. And I know that during the period of COVID, you made an even bigger shift, driving further down into that beauty industry by building like a really strong community in that space. Like, can you tell me a little bit around how COVID was initially for Timely, and then how you eventually pivoted towards building that community?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that we started building a community when I joined in 2017. We probably hadn't well articulated it at that point, that that's what we were doing, but we knew that the market that we were going after were people. They relied, or they trusted each other. They trusted each other's recommendations, and sort of had this wariness of outsiders of the industry. And that was one of the shifts that we made when we went from generic software or generic booking software to beauty booking software for the beauty and wellness sector, is that we wanted to be seen as not just this outsider serving the beauty industry, but actually a part of the industry. We wanted to be recognized alongside GHD or L'Oreal as a member of the beauty industry. And it's all well and good to have that intention, but the actual journey to go from this beauty tech part of the sense of belonging, rather than being outsiders, to actually being seen as we belong here, that was, I think that's what came to life during COVID, is when our competitors went quiet, we had this void where we were like, actually, nobody's talking. Yeah, so there are a whole bunch of things that we did for our customers during COVID, including proactive discounts. So instead of paying their full Timely fee, we proactively applied discounts for them, so that they weren't out of, or overly out of pocket, or we tried to persuade them to stay on with Timely. We, throughout our whole kind of product roadmap for that we'd planned for that period, and we're like, okay, what can we do that is going to make our customers money when their doors are shut? Like, what can we deliver? How can they sell products online? Can we make it easier for them to do that? Can they do online consultations? Like, are there ways for us to support them making money virtually? And that really drove a lot of what we delivered. I think we delivered like 400 product updates in 8 weeks.
Wow.
That were all around like, how do we quickly add value for our customers? Maybe don't quote me on that number, but it was a lot in a short space of time, and I'm sure someone will call out if I got that number wrong. So we did a whole bunch of stuff to make sure that they could make money, make sure that they understood like the rules around. So in Queensland, there were certain rules versus New South Wales versus the UK versus New Zealand. Like, everybody had different kind of operating rules around when they could open and what they could do. And we just wanted to make that really simple. So we actually processed all of that information and gave it to them to say, like, here in your area, these are the trading rules for you. So we just wanted to take the mental load off of our customers. And we also, probably the most memorable, or the thing that we were most known for over that period of time, was the online education. Like, our customers had this opportunity, well, certainly for the first lockdown, when they had maybe more optimism and energy. It certainly got harder as things continued over the course of 18 months or so. But we ran these weekly boot camps for learning Timely, but we made them really fun. And we just added some personality and didn't worry too much about coming across as looking silly. Like, we dressed up, we made them quite kitsch and super memorable, and people would tune in for them on a Wednesday night at 9 o'clock with a glass of wine and to learn something about Timely. And we got some incredible feedback from that. So there was a whole bunch of stuff that we did that just I remember actually when COVID first happened, or we we realized that we were shutting down and that we could lose everything. And I wrote this 1-page comms plan or strategy, which I was thinking, I don't really know what to do, but this is what I think. And certainly Ryan Baker, who our CEO and co-founder, was very much advocating for, is just be visible, be responsive, and do whatever you can to help whoever's in front of you. Like that was all we could do. So we were visible, we were responsive, and we helped the individual and the community. And the feedback that we got was incredible. Like, yeah, I think we really made our brand known. Like it existed before then, but it really kind of shone through during that period. Yeah.
That's an amazing story. And I guess like part of building a great community is also being like super authentic. And like why do you think being authentic to your audience at that time was so important?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, we're all people and we respond to real humans. And I think we've got a lot more empathy for another person sitting in front of us than an anonymous brand. And I think that's when our brand really felt like it fit, is when we stopped trying to be a perfect brand voice of like, this is the Timely voice and this is how we interact. And if you're speaking to someone online, use the Timely account. We actually just used our personal like Facebook pages to say, hey, I'm Jo from Timely. I'm here to help you. And just, yeah, we became ourselves. And I think it was driven by our values. We had some very well owned values at Timely that weren't just kind of posters on a wall. It was part of who we were and what drove us and what drove our strategy and everything that we did. One was, or the most important one was, customers are our son. And so like putting them at the center of everything that we did and being a real person to whoever that was, whether it was a customer or a partner in our community or somebody that we're working with, was you're the center. Like you make it possible for us to keep our doors open and have this team and build this product. So you're very important to us. And I think everyone really embraced that. So that authenticity came through from the whole Timely team into the community and felt recognized. It felt like something tangible.
Yeah, I think a lot of SaaS companies fall victim to just being a tech company and being something that, being a business that you can't really recognize online, or like, at the end of the day, that saying comes to mind, people buy from people. And I think what Timely did really well is like separate out the tech from the people behind it and then bring that together after, which is really powerful.
Yeah, and I think like getting the faces of our team, that was when people showed their love for us and or for our brand. I think Ryan Baker did a really great job of putting himself out there. He's probably not the guy that you would associate with the beauty and wellness industry if you knew him, but over the course of 10 years, like he became like the biggest champion of this specific customer segment and was right there fronting a lot of the comms that we put out there. So actually having the founder voice is one of the things that I thought was the most powerful moves that you can make, is like, this person is the person that decided to create this business. They give a shit about you and what you're doing. And if they can project that, whether it's digitally or in person, then it's hugely powerful.
Nice. If you were giving advice to another SaaS company looking to build a community, what would that be?
If you're going to build a community, you need to commit to it, because it's not something that happens overnight. It's the process of thousands of little building blocks that create this thing that exists as an engaged community. Like, you can probably start a Facebook community page overnight and have tumbleweeds going through it. But if you want like a highly engaged audience that become brand advocates of yours in an authentic way, it takes patience and time. Like, it's a long game. It's not it's not something that you can do as a campaign for a quarter or something like that. Like, it needs to be a core part of your go-to-market proposition. So patience is the key, and perseverance.
In terms of Timely, what were some of the key metrics that you used to measure success for a community?
Yeah, good question. I mean, there are so many metrics, and like, I think that's one of the things that we had at Timely was data. And sometimes it was quite overwhelming. Like, where should we be looking, and what are the metrics that are speaking to us here? For us, there are a couple that we always championed internally. One was our Net Promoter Score. So that's like, if you've got a community that loves you, they're going to tell you about it. And if you're able to measure that, I think we had it consistently, an NPS above 80 consistently for the entire life of Timely that I was involved in the company. And yeah, so Net Promoter Score means that you've got people that actually you're genuine champions. And then the other one that I looked at, mostly from a revenue growth, like, we've got goals, like the community is something that we really care about, but that is it's a strategy to drive demand, or awareness, interest, demand, conversion. Like, we want to make money. We're in this thing, we're a VC funded startup, we need to like make it a success. So yeah, one of the other metrics that I'd look at often is the cost to acquire, and is this trending down? And if you're doing something well, if you've got a strong brand and market, then people are probably already aware of you, they probably already like you, and when they're ready to buy, they will probably come to you. And if you can turn that interest and awareness into a customer, then you've got a brand strategy that's working. So yeah, I would say if you can have a healthy cost to acquire that is trending down over time.
What's your view on measuring like cost to acquire across a business? Obviously, you can look at that from like a per channel component. You can look at that from like a total marketing spend, or you can look at it from like a total like operating expenditure from a business. What are some of your views on measuring like marketing success within the business?
Yeah, I would look at it from all of those lenses, because it just gives you a bit of an idea of where the impact is coming from. So I was always really interested in what the marketing cost to acquire was, and it helped us validate investments. Once we had some track record, it was actually quite hard to defend some of the investment decisions that we made in brand early on. But once we had some momentum behind us, it helped us validate like the investment in brand is the right investment to have an efficient acquisition funnel. Like, this is where our spend needs to be. And yeah, kind of going to micro, I don't know, I think it's often thousands of little things that you do that drive the ultimate conversion, and to be kind of pinning an activity to a particular AdWord or web page is I think sometimes there's too much energy put on those things, and it's more about what's the overall performance of the strategy that the business has set and backed, and is that working against your goals?
I'm totally of that view as well. I think people get way too tied down. You should measure channel to channel, but I agree.
Yeah.
Like, I think at the end of the day, it's like, is the trend up or down based on like what we're actually investing?
Yeah, I think it's like, it's interesting to see it, but to kind of go, well, I'm going to change my whole strategy based on this thing, that's probably a mistake. If it's the wrong, like if you're reading the data wrong, then it could just actually slow you down. So I think, yeah, if you trust that the thousands of little things that you're doing are building up to like the performance that you're achieving, that's probably a more accurate view, in my opinion.
One of the things that Timely did as well, as you mentioned, was launch into the UK. What were some of the lessons from launching into the UK and things that you might have done differently?
Such a good question. Yeah, like the benefit of hindsight. There are probably at my arm's length of things that I would like to do over. But I think entering a new market is hard. Entering a new market on the other side of the world is really hard. And building a team and transporting the culture that you've created in New Zealand and Australia to work on the other side of the world takes time, energy, support. Yeah, I would say one of the lessons that I learned was building a team requires a lot more kind of in-person nurturing. If I could have a do-over, I would have spent more time in the UK market working with the team that was there and making sure that everyone felt supported. Like, a lot happens overnight, especially at the pace that Timely worked and the volume of stuff that we would talk about on Slack, because we're a remote or hybrid remote business. So our office was Slack, and the UK team would, and this is the feedback that we got, would wake up in the morning to this avalanche of information. So they'd spend the first hour of their day trying to pick through it and like understand, have decisions been made, or do I have feedback on this thing as it moved past a point where I can contribute? And yeah, just making sure that they felt as much a part of the conversations, decision making, go-to-market strategy, just everything requires, finding the right people, nurturing them, supporting them, and spending some time face to face. So less about like what did we tactically do marketing wise or sales wise. I think there are definitely regional differences between Australia, New Zealand, and the UK that are probably a bit more dramatic than most of us would expect if we haven't launched products in those markets. Like, there are differences in how they operate, but to me it's all about like the team and the culture and buy into the strategy and understanding the strategy and confidence to execute against that strategy.
What would be like the top 2 or 3 differences that surprised you in the UK compared to the ANZ market?
So the main differences that I noticed in the UK were quite little things. They were the formality of how to communicate with a UK business. New Zealand and Australia, we're very informal and like friendly, and we don't err on the side of professionalism often. Whereas in the UK, business, including in the beauty and wellness sector, is much more formal in how they have human interactions or email interactions. But, it's a more formal environment than what we are. So that was one of the little things. I don't think there was anything too dramatic. I think the translating Timely's culture to the UK team, what we needed to do was recognize that UK Timely had its own unique culture that was of the UK because it was built by people from the UK, and we needed to embrace that as much as our own way of doing things, which was very much informal.
What lessons from Timely are you transferring over into the climate tech space with CarbonCrop?
One of the first lessons that I thought about transferring when I joined CarbonCrop was the value of brand. And I think particularly when you're in a space where there's a lot of skepticism, there's some cynicism over the solutions that are being developed to tackle climate change. Actually building like a trusted brand and being transparent and authentic in how we communicate, what we share. I don't even really think that I brought them with me, but we certainly were aligned. That was one of the reasons that CarbonCrop really attracted me, was this alignment between making the solutions, the climate change solutions that we were developing, accessible to everyday people to understand, and like kind of demystifying a lot of the language and what's very technical and scientific as a field. How can we make it more accessible by everybody?
You're also launching an exciting new venture, ArcStudio. Can you tell us more about that as well, Jo?
Sure. So I have recently launched ArcStudio. We are working with early stage founders and teams to help them refine their go-to-market strategies. So I'm specifically having fun working on brand positioning, competitive differentiation, and how to build scalable go-to-market strategies with founders. And most of my background is working with SaaS companies, so we've got quite a bit of interest from SaaS founders looking to chat to us. But if you are a founder or early stage venture and you're looking for help with your go-to-market strategy, then get in touch.